You're watching the free version of Silhouette Essentials. For projects and footage, head to borisfx.com for the premium download.
Beauty paint shots typically involve a combination of manual and procedural paint, in addition to a workflow that involves detail separation. So what is detail separation? Detail separation is where you separate the image into color and detail layers, which is helpful for beauty paint. So it provides two detail separation workflows to accomplish the work that needs to be done, and I will be exploring both. I have my finished work here, but I'm going to make another setup over to the side for a demo. So I'll bring in our denoised clip. I'm going to find the extract detail node. Another way to bring in nodes is to right click and then go down and find the node that you want. It's in the filter tab, extract detail. And then I'm going to bring in two paint nodes. And I'm going to hook them up to the outputs from the extract detail. I'm going to name the one on the left paint color, go down to the node parameters here, and then I'll change this one to paint detail. And then we add a grain composite after that. Composite, grain composite here, and we'll make sure that the outputs and inputs are hooked up correctly. And then we want to set the channels in the grain composite to luminance. And then I'm going to reuse tracking in our roto node. I'm just going to click on our roto node here, copy, and then paste. And then I'm going to hook up the outputs and inputs for the tracking data, so that can be used. And then so we can see what we're looking at. So here are the tracks that I'm going to be using for the class. And then here you can see that there are different views. So here's the regular view here. I'll just zoom in. And then here is the color view and the detail view. And there's hotkeys for the viewer, 8 and 9. Let's go here. Actually, that was color. So 8 is color and 9 is detail. It looks a little bit different depending on which node you're clicked on. So you want to make sure if you're in the color node, you're looking at the color. And if you're in the paint detail node, that you're looking at the detail, which is detail layer. And if you want to just look at the output, go back to the source, and then you can paint individually on these layers. So if I'm painting in the color layer, I'm going to preserve the detail, and I'm painting in the detail layer, I'm going to preserve the color. And then you composite them back, and they both paint strokes will all appear here combined. And I just want to point out that in the extract detail node, the value is set to 1, and that selects fine details such as skin blemishes, pores, hairs, and wrinkles. Okay, so let's get started. First, I'm going to pull up an additional viewer. I'm going to press this plus button here. I'm going to select the grain composite node, probably the grain composite 2. And I'm going to just nestle this in here, and I'm going to zoom in. My viewer's preference is set to not be synchronized, and that's a little bit more helpful in this situation. I just want to remain focused right here. And then I'm going to start with the detail. So if I zoom in, you can see that there's also wrinkles here and some dark areas, and we're going to start painting out some of the wrinkles. So I'm just going for a natural look. I'm going to go and look at my tracks here, and you can see I have some tracks for under the eyes and between the eyes here near the forehead. So let's start with the screen left eye. So if I go into the detail mode here, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. I'm going to use the clone brush, and I'm just going to paint at a light opacity, make my brush a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to just maybe have 50% opacity. And I'm going to paint out some of the wrinkles. Make a clone offset. Select my paint group here. I'm going to select my screen lift under eye, make sure that my frame range is correct. And we have match move selected. One thing I want to do here is that I want to go to my work range because my sequence is actually bigger than what I'm working on here. So I'm going to go to work range here, and you can see it's 85 to 113, and that matches my timeline. And I'll press the play button, and it's going to play back the strokes. Then we'll zoom in here on the left. And maybe we'll just compare with the original here. So you can see right away it's having an effect. I'll go back to the detail node and we'll try some other areas. And keep going. Even some of these darker areas are showing up in detail pretty well, so I can paint them in the detail layer. And then we'll try some paint strokes in the color layer here. So if I look at the color, you can really see that it's showing up pretty dark under the screen right eye. So go to the clone brush again. And I'm just going to paint at probably a lower opacity, maybe 50%. And make a offset here. And just see if I can blend that a little bit. Maybe take that down a little bit more. I just realized I selected the wrong tracking layer, but it looks like it's tracking pretty well because it's on the same plane and has similar movement. So the nice thing about this is that I'm painting the color, but I'm preserving the detail. Okay, we'll take a look at the original just to compare. We'll look at the output, or the input, I should say, and we'll go back to our original. So you can see here, it's already making a difference, and we can even take it farther. Go back to the color layer. Okay, so now let's take a look at above the eyes. It's kind of red up there. So let's see if we can reduce some of that redness. So I'm going to go to the color correct tool. I'm going to go to my red value here and just try like a -2 and see what that looks like. I'm just going to do a test stroke here, maybe 50%. So I'm just going to remove the red. So it's pretty subtle. So maybe let's try a little bit more, -5. And now you can see that the red is being removed out of this eye, and we'll just play that paint stroke back. And I'm going to use the same tracking for screen right under eye. It's so easy making these micro adjustments. If I was using the clone tool in the normal mode in the paint node, I wouldn't be able to get these results. So I can just affect the color here, and the detail and the skin texture stays the same. And then lastly, we'll just work on this little wrinkle between the forehead. We'll go back to the detail layer. And I'll make sure that I'm selected on between the eyes. And actually I'm going to use probably a dual clone stroke here. So it's already looking better. So if we go over to the final, I can show you that. I'm just going to close this. We'll look at the grain composite 1. Actually, what I should do is bring up another window to compare, and we will compare with the source. So you can already see it looks a lot better. I was just focusing on this eye area here. Maybe I'll just close this and we can play it back without using up all the memory. Okay, now it's cached through. So I think that looks a lot better. It's a really easy and natural way to do the beauty paint for this shot. And then we'll just compare the original with a snapshot. Snapshot down to the finished result. And we'll just do a wipe across. Actually, let's do this again. I have to make another snapshot here and go down to the grain composite. And now we can compare. So that was the original, and then this is the beauty paint. Okay, now we can move on to the next shot.